We recently went out with a company for barbecue. There were also people I didn't know in the company. We sit and chat. And then one guy says to his girlfriend Irina, "Tell me your story, tell me." She clearly dislikes remembering it, she refuses. But we're curious, so we persuaded her to tell us. The story, in my opinion, is pretty creepy. I'm sharing it with you. It was last August. Irina had to go to an interview by 3 o'clock. I went out in advance and decided to walk. Our town is small. She lives in the center, and her place of work is near the center. The weather is good, the town is green, and the foliage is drowning. Why not take a walk? At the same time, prepare mentally for the interview. It was necessary to walk along the main street and then turn onto a side street. She walks through the center, cars honking, people, exhausted by the heat, pass by, the sun is shining. In general, an active summer life. Irina crossed the road and turned onto that street. By the way, although it is located near the center, there are few people walking along it. You know how it is in small towns? It's a noisy, active center, but you turn off, and everything is quiet and grace. Lost in thought, she didn't immediately realize what had happened. As she said, when she woke up from her thoughts, she had a strange feeling, as if the atmosphere around her had become sticky, like butterscotch. I'll even quote her. Here she goes, barely moving her legs, and feels like in a dream, a persistent feeling of unreality. And, he says, everything is kind of faded, like in a faded photograph. The sounds are all muffled. Even the bright August sun had become somewhat dim. I looked around, but the houses were not the same, everything was not the same. The houses are old, as if from the 19th century, hiding under the trees. We don't have such streets near the center. And most importantly, the amazing devastation, like after the revolution, she said. The windows of the beautiful houses are broken, the plaster is crumbling, the fancy, patterned doors are wide open. You look in the windows, and it's dark and musty. The situation was saved by green spreading trees. But there was no brightness, and there were no people or cars. It seemed to Irina that she was alone in this strange world. I asked her what she felt at that moment, fear, confusion, or something else. Irina replied that her emotions also seemed to have faded, dulled. Then she noticed an old woman on a bench near one of these houses. Just an ordinary old lady. She was wearing a headscarf, a sweatshirt, and a long skirt. The old lady looked quite good-looking, and Irina came up to her and asked where she was. The old lady was delighted, jumped up from the bench, fussed and said, "Let's go inside, I'll tell you." Irina looks into the open door of the house, and there is darkness and mustiness, and the smell from there is some kind of strange, unpleasant, like from a garbage dump. She replies that she doesn't have time, she has an interview. And Granny is already grabbing her by the hand and pulling her into the house, saying, "Come on, honey. Come with me. I'll tell you everything, and I'll give you some delicious tea." Irina succumbed at first. She says she thought she was going to be late for the interview anyway, but here's such a friendly grandmother. The old woman had already disappeared through the door, and Irina had only one step to take. And then there's that nasty smell again. And such a horror covered her. She compared it to the feeling when you sharply hit the bed with your little finger. The realization came that all this was very strange, that it was some kind of wildness and nonsense. It gave her the strength to break free from the clutches. She broke free and ran. Well, I ran, barely moving my legs in this sticky atmosphere. She ran without looking back. Usually in many stories, after the victim struggled out of his hands, a cry full of despair and anger was heard, but then there was complete silence behind her. Only the door slammed shut with a loud sound. She doesn't remember how long she ran like that. She remembers running and crying. Then he abruptly rushes around the bend, and again the bright sun hits his eyes. His ears are filled with the noise of cars and people's voices. The traction dissipates. It seems to fall off his feet like 100-pound weight. Looks, and she's back on the same central street, practically in the same place. I took a bus stop to recover. People pass by, surprised. A girl is sitting, sobbing and shaking as if in a chill. Someone comes up and asks if they need help. After the kind people gave me some water to drink, I looked at my phone. And it turns out that it's 2:30. That is, she wandered along this street for only 10 minutes, although it seemed like an hour had passed for sure. Well, what should I do? I called a taxi and went to an interview. The taxi driver, by the way, was extremely surprised. There is something very close to go, and the girl is calling a taxi. She was not hired, apparently surprised by her strange appearance and halting speech. Irina admitted that she was glad of this to some extent. You don't have to walk down that street, or else history will repeat itself again. That's the whole story. You know, we all felt uneasy. Everyone walks down this street a lot. And each of us can find ourselves in her place, and it is not known who would behave in this case. Someone, maybe, would have agreed to the offer of a friendly granny to drink delicious tea, and what would have become of him in the end? People go missing, and you can often find ads for help finding a person. Maybe they also turned onto the wrong street.